St. Paul's Theological College, and even to interact with the postulants that I taught some times back and new postulants. It's great to be here. Somebody has asked me to elaborate some few things about philosophy. Now, from the onset, philosophy is the queen of all sciences. Everything under the sun is philosophy. Be it music, be it chemistry, be it geometry. That's why as you get a PhD in anything under the sun, that PhD is called Doctor of Philosophy. Now, let me begin from the onset by defining philosophy. Philosophy is derived from two Greek words, philos and sophia. Philos means love. Young men, especially those of you who are in the stage of growth and reproduction, I know somebody, they want to marry. They have these intimate feelings that are called philos. Philos is love, and sophia is wisdom. Old ladies were called sophia. It means wisdom. Therefore, in a nutshell, philosophy is the love of wisdom. And as philosophy entails analysis, interpretations, and even conceptualization. And I want to begin by telling you that anything under the sun is a legitimate field of study for a philosopher. Observation. And philosophy could be asking questions. Socrates, one of the great philosophers, said that the only thing I know is that I don't know anything. Therefore, philosophy is about asking questions. Now, let me elaborate. There are five distinct branches of philosophy. Number one is a field of study that is called aesthetics, the study of beauty and the expressions of beauty. Those of you who still like writing love letters and texting, it's philosophy. The expression of beauty and love is one branch of philosophy. As you say, wow, what a wonderful flower. This is a beautiful flower. What you're doing in essence is that you're studying philosophy. The other one is not only aesthetics. There is metaphysics, beyond the physical. The study of reality and being. The questions of, does God exist? Do we have free will? Those are questions that are legitimately studied under metaphysics, beyond the physical. Epistemology is the study of knowledge, the extent of knowledge and the limitation of knowledge. That is what is called metaphysics. There is always a priori knowledge and a posteriori knowledge. Knowledge without experience is called a priori knowledge. A posteriori knowledge is knowledge after experience. And you see, there are distinct branches of philosophy that has been set ever since the establishment of this field of study. There are people who are rationalists. The rationalists think that knowledge can be gotten without experience. Those are people like Plato. You look at René Descartes. They believe in rationalism. Whereas imperialism is the study of philosophy with experience and observation. You'll find people like Aristotle was an empiricist. Knowledge after experience. Now, there are various ways of looking at philosophy, studying philosophy. There are people who are skeptics, like David Hume. There is dogmatic approach of philosophy, where you agree with certain presuppositions and consider them to be true even before you begin studying. God exists. You hold it dogmatically. You believe that it's true and you continue to express it. Now, there is ethics. Ethics is the study of what? Ethics is the study of the right and wrong. And I want to elaborate and tell you that there is objective ethics. There people believe in objective ethics. Ethics that by all standards, everywhere, in every place, there is the right. There is ethics for everyone. Like when you say murder is wrong and you are an objective ethics, you believe that murder is wrong at all times and at all places. That is what is called objective ethics. There is subjective ethics. Subjective ethics is ethics that applies at a particular place and it doesn't apply in any other places. Like in certain culture, it is permissible for people in the same age set to have conjugal relationship with wives of people of the same age set. In those communities, so long as you plant a spear, it is permissible. Subjective ethics. Then there is that is not, it's relative ethics. Then the last bit is called subjective ethics, based on your taste, preferences, and choices. It's called subjective ethics. Now, there is logic. The logic is correct way of reasoning. It's called sound reasoning. When you are studying ethics, the correct reasoning, there are fallacies. Fallacies are brought by inconsistency in reasoning, where the premise does not agree with the conclusion. It's called a fallacy. There are formal fallacies and informal fallacies. Formal fallacies are those fallacies that where necessarily the premises do not agree with the conclusion. It's a formal fallacies. Informal fallacies are those fallacies in content and context. Some of those fallacies are fallacy ad hominem. Like, I attack this man, a friend of mine, just because I don't like him. I just attack him because I don't like him. I don't like the way he's doing things. And anasema wewe ni mjinga kwa sababu wewe ni mkali. You just hate me because I'm a kali, not because of the content of what I'm saying. That is called an informal fallacy. Another example is false dilemma. Like this young man, when he wants to approach a lady, the informal dilemma. Unasema ukinikataa nitajinyonga. So you are giving this lady false dilemma ya kwamba there are no options, either akupende ama akufe.
Sign out.
Yeah.
Baki salama.
Asante. Either akupende ama afanyikaje? Akufe. But it's not true. There are other options. You can still not love her and leave and get another option. It's called false dilemma. There are so many. There is another fallacy that is called strawman's fallacy. In strawman's fallacy, you attack the weaker position of somebody to present a weaker argument. And when you present the weaker argument, you attack the weaker form of the argument. That is done by maybe people like Azimio and the other group. What is the other group called? The Yuda fellows, the Tanga fellows. You see, what happens is that they present the weaker part of the argument and attack it instead of presenting what the person will say. Now that's the argument that sometimes we do as we defend our position. It's called a strawman's fallacy. You do not attack the correct position of the person. You present a weaker argument and attack it. Now those are the fallacies, and I have concluded. In a nutshell, I have concluded the introduction, the basis. There are errors of philosophy. One of the first errors is called the pre-Socrates errors. And these people Before the pre-Socrates eras, they were the poets and the mystics. The poets and the mystics believed that the world could be explained mythologically and supernaturally. But after them, there came a group that were more scientifically oriented. There were two kinds of philosophers from eons and from militaries. Among them, Thales. And they explained the world scientifically without God and mythology. And they explained the origin and the possession of things from what exists. Like Thales said that the world came from water. Because water can be found in three states: solid, liquid, and gas. So everything is water. Life comes from water. Everything is water. When you are happy, water comes out of you. When you are very annoyed, water comes out of you. And everything is water. So how did he explain things that existed? He explained in the sense that everything came from water. There is another chap by the name of who? Anaximander. Anaximander, according to him, the world came from one undifferentiated mass. From one mass, everything was made, one undifferentiated mass. And you'll find that this man had some very rudimentary. You'll find that Thales, one thing that I forgot to say is that Thales was also a mathematician. He was able to calculate the height of a tree by observing its shadow. So philosophy deals with everything, including mathematics. He was able to predict the eclipse of the moon that happened around 585 BC before Christ. Then Anaximander, he was able to predict and to postulate a theory that is akin to the theory of survival for the fittest. He said, in fact, everything lived in water. But one day, the land dried. And the animals that were able to survive. Those who are not able to survive, they died. That's the theory that Herbert Spencer picked and later down. And they talked about survival for the fittest. So philosophy sometimes entails speculating and postulating. Now, let's look at the other man who was Anaximenes. And Anaximenes, according to them, he observed the reality. Anaximenes observed the reality of life. And according to him, air was the primordial stuff. Water pools. And fire was the real thing. Then we will look at a man by the name of Herodotus and Parmenides. For Herodotus, according to him, change is real. And according to him, you cannot jump into the same river twice. Is that true? Yes. Even if you jump to that river, is it the same river? Yeah? Ukiingiza mguu kwa mtoni na utoke. Na uingize tena, is it the same river? Huh? No, it's not the same river. It's a different one. So some people can kill people for no reason. It's a different one. And I tell you, everything is changing. Are you the same person? Are you the same person with the one that came to this school? Are you the same person? Are you different? Is this the same guy who came here closing eyes? No. We are always changing and becoming. That's Herodotus. And according to him, change is real. Permanence is real. According to Parmenides, permanent is real. So whatever you see as changing is an illusion. What is real is what cannot be changed. And according to Parmenides, if everything was ever changing, then knowledge was impossible. Because you cannot study what it keeps on changing. Those are the pre-Socrates philosophers. Now, let's look at these great philosophers. One is Socrates. I love Socrates. He walked barefoot. And he even did not brush his teeth. He was obsessed with questions. And the only thing he said, that the only thing I know is that I don't know anything. Do you know what Socrates was doing? He always questioned people. There are two things. There is something that is called the Socrates irony. The Socrates irony is that he claimed not to know anything. And the people who claimed to know, after he asked them questions, they discovered that they did not know. Socrates knew. But the people who claimed to know did not know. So it's always humility to claim that you don't know. Don't say I'm third year, I know. You know nothing. You've studied philosophy and theology only for 3 years, and you claim to know. You don't know anything. The only thing I know is that I don't know. I started theological college in 1995 when I was 17 years. Now I'm almost studying it for 30 years. I've done diploma. I did degree. I did masters. I did PhD. But I still don't know. So when I hear people fighting that they know third year, I sympathize with them. Because the only thing I know is that I don't know anything. And Socrates' irony tells us the importance of humility. And Socrates, according to Socrates, the critical thing is that you should be led by the conscience. The conscience was very critical. And the definitional concept of things. He told people to define things. Like I can ask you, what is love? Can you define it? What is love? Love is a feeling.
It's a natural feeling.
Why does it disappear sometimes?
Because the feeling. That's bad.
What about men? They are angels. And you believe
Men are always right.
they are angels. No, men, they are always wrong.
They are hardcore. They don't cry.
No, you don't cry.
Yes.
But you cry from your stomach. Haven't I seen you sleeping?
No.
So what I'm trying to say is that some things you need to put a person into proper definition when you push him to define something. The definition of concept of things. Socrates emphasized defining things. Now let's look at Plato. Plato was a master of geometry. The name Plato came from wrestling, broad shoulders. And Socrates was a pupil of Socrates. Plato was a student of Socrates. And since he was a pupil, the great pupil of Socrates, he was the one who wrote a lot of things about Socrates. We never know. Like the lectures of Chesosi. Some people can put their own words and say, Chesosi said, I can go to your notes and I discover that your notes at that time while you are writing, you are thinking of others. Notes that were not compatible with my thinking frame and my world. What is it? You misrepresent and mischaracterize it. And what happens? You do not present the correct position. That's why we never have anything written about Socrates. Whatever we have about Socrates Whatever we have about Socrates are what others wrote about him. Okay. Now, where are we now? Plato. The most important thing about Plato is the theory of forms and ideas. According to him, what is seen by the physical eyes is not what is real. What is real is the eternal and changing thing. What you are seeing is illusions. The beauty that you are seeing is illusion. That's why people change their minds. What you are thinking last time is not what you are thinking now, because illusions. You should not be obsessed with these things that you are seeing. They are illusion. They are unchangeable things. The things of ideas. The world of ideas is what is permanent. The world of form, appearance, that's a fake world. Now, the other guy that I want us to look at is Aristotle. Aristotle was a polymath. He knew everything except mathematics. He knew everything except mathematics. Unlike his teacher, he was taught by Plato. Unlike his teacher, he was a master of geometry. He did not know mathematics. During his honeymoon, he was picking flowers and collecting specimens. And this guy by the name of Aristotle, great teacher. Some of his great teachings are the golden mean. The golden mean. You should also, as you look for virtues, look at the golden mean. And you balance the golden mean. Another thing that is critical about Aristotle is that he believes that there is no distinction between forms and ideas. The appearance and the ideal about the thing are one and the same thing. There is no distinction. So he began empiricism, and Aristotle, and Plato propagated rationalism. Those are the two distinct branches of philosophy. Now, as we go to schools of philosophy, there are three. My brother, do you remember them? Rationalism by René Descartes. René Descartes was a man. He wanted to come up with a clear mathematical formula-like definition of philosophy that did not have uncertainties, that it was based on certainties and certainties alone. And now, what happened to this chap is that he said that you're going to get to what is certain by doubting. And he doubted until you reach a place where you don't doubt. And that is, you cannot doubt. And he ended up by saying, ego sum, I believe, therefore I am. The other school is complicated. It's called the school of idealism by a man by the name of Friedrich Willmann. The other name is, this man was a German, and he was the master of idealism. A very complicated, in fact, he's a complicated philosopher. He's called an obscurist. His philosophy was difficult to understand. You could not pick it. This man was a man, he was born with very feeble health. And in fact, he was very close to the sister. They said sometimes he was engaged in incest. Very close. He was weak in health, very strong in thinking. And according to him, what we learn from him is that there is something that is called gaze that controls the history of things. That it controls the history of things. Idealism. Gaze controls history. It's like God to him. And that was the time of romanticism in Germany. Lastly, we end by a school of thought that is called existentialism. by a man by the name of Jean-Paul Sartre. Existentialism, really they believe that life is absurd. Does it make sense? In fact, I've come to condole with you people. The real purpose I came is to show solidarity after losing one of my postulates. Maybe I say, let me come and talk to this people. Life sometimes is absurd. And the mere fact that there is death and we can't avoid it sometimes make lives more absurd. Existentialism, Jean-Paul Sartre said that life is an empty bubble out of the sea of nothing. Life is from nothing to nothing. It's meaningless. It's a philosophy that came out of the Second World War. And it showed that there is absolutely nothing. That is the essence. A man spends 40 years, 40 months looking for a lady to marry in 40 minutes. And to spend 40 million. And at the end it is Mahewa. That is existentialism. But the challenge of existentialism, they deny the uniqueness of each and every person and the special place of God. Now, after we finish that, we look at the philosophy that is more easy to understand, more practical, oral sometimes, and a philosophy that is called African philosophy. In African philosophy, there are how many branches? There is what we call ethno-philosophy. There, the second branch is called sagacity. Then there is nationalistic philosophy. Then there is written philosophy. Ethno-philosophy is a philosophy by a collective community. If every community had their own philosophy and expressions, it's found in riddles, idioms. Riddles, idioms, wise saying. Like every community has their own sayings. It's a philosophy. It's not written. It's very practical and concrete. Not like the Western philosophy that is abstract and explained in terms like idealism, like existentialism, like Socrates and Thales. African philosophy is more practical and pragmatic. And it's a philosophy of an entire community. Philosophy is sagacity, is philosophy by one man who is identified as a sage, who speaks, a spokesman, speaks on the behalf of the entire community. He's a sage. And this sage is a great person in the community. And is called to express the nuances and the distinctions and all that. Now, we look at national philosophy. National philosophy, we look at philosophies like Ujama, collectivization, now Undugu, putting them together. It is, it meant to deal with individualism and to steer people. There is humanism by Kaunda. There is Ubuntu. I am because you are, and since you are, I am. There is Pan-Africanism and conscientism by a man by the name of Kwame Nkrumah. Africa must unite. And in a nutshell, that is philosophy. If you grasp all those concepts, you have gone far. And your philosophy. It's just introduction. Later we look at it at much depth. But thank you for taking your time and listening to introduction to philosophy. Thank you. May I entertain one or two questions if there is any? Then I can discuss any other subject. Since there is none, we can close that chapter.